I'm talking with Mary Higgins Clark tonight. She has authored or co-authored well over 30 books. I understand that there are over 100 million in print in the USA alone, and I was fascinated by the fact that, Mary, you are the #1 best-selling author in France.
Yes, I have been so blessed, and I honestly don't understand it, Barbara, in the sense that I don't use a French girl and I don't use French backgrounds, which would, have indicated that there was some relationship. But, the French are a very family-oriented people. And I think that they have liked the fact that I always write about someone, a very nice person, who is suddenly in jeopardy, as opposed to someone who is on the edge, who's looking for trouble. Something happens. And the example I always give is if you read about a young woman and something happened to her, and then you also read it was 4 a.m, she was in the worst part of town, alone, drinking too much, and dressed in a see-through blouse and a black leather miniskirt, you would say it's awful, but my daughter would not be there in that circumstance. But if that same young woman is home and looks at her watch and said, oh, good Lord, it's time to pick up the baby from mother's, and gets in the car and is backing out when from the rear of the back seat, the floor, she hears a voice say, don't turn right, dear, turn left. Then you want to see that girl back home.
Yes.
So I think the French have caught on to, or have liked perhaps, the kind of stories because they're really kind of moral stories. I mean, I don't preach in them, but there's a morality and there's a lack of the usual 4-letter words and explicit kind of any sexual activity. And there's a very large market for that.
Well, just as you certainly caught my attention with the voice from the back seat appearing, I suspect it has something to do with the quality of your writing also.
Thank you.
Your latest selection is, your latest book is Just Take My Heart.
Yes.
And this is a selection of the Literary Guild, the Doubleday Book Club, and on the bestseller list. The central character in this is Emily Wallace, and I wondered if you would give us just an overview of what's happening in Emily's life.
Emily is a young war widow. Her husband was a captain in Iraq. She had had a heart transplant, which very few people know, because she had had the aortic valve replaced. And when it failed so quickly, they replaced the heart, but she didn't want it. She said, I've had enough sympathy. So very few people know that she's had a heart transplant, and she's an assistant prosecutor and about to be given the plum case of her life. If she can win this case, she's going to have a real profile. It is the case of a theatrical agent accused of the deliberate murder of his famous actress wife. What Emily does not know is that the heart of the wife is beating inside her body. She has been the recipient of that heart. And there is a belief that there is molecular knowledge in the heart, that when you take someone else's heart, you are also taking some of his tastes, some of his instincts, some of his mannerisms even, and there are a lot of recorded cases of it, some of his emotions. So now she is prosecuting the man whom this actress loved very much.
Mm. Would you read us a bit, please, from
Sure.
Just Take My Heart?
This is the opening few paragraphs. It was the persistent sense of impending doom, not the northeaster, that made Natalie flee from Cape Cod back to New Jersey in the pre-dawn hours of Monday morning. She had expected to find sanctuary in the cozy Cape house that had once been her grandmother's and now was hers, but the icy sleet beating against the windows only increased the terror she was experiencing. Then, when a power failure plunged the house into darkness, she lay awake, sure that every sound was caused by an intruder. After 15 years, she was certain that she had accidentally stumbled upon the knowledge of who had strangled her roommate Jamie when they were both struggling young actresses. And he knows that I know, she thought. I could see it in his eyes.
Thank you. I understand that medical miracles are something that does fascinate you, and you've alluded to that certainly with the heart transplant in this book. Is it something that you research a fair amount
Oh,
before
you
you write
have
about
to.
it?
You must not read an article about it and assume. I mean, I credit a transplant specialist in my acknowledgments. I read about the cases of people who felt they had changed because of the heart surgery. I spoke to one man who had had a transplant. He looked marvelous, a picture of health. And I asked him about it. I said, do you feel any different? He said, well, you come to death's door. I think that's going to make you a little different no matter what. But he said, I do feel different in this way. I have always been an aggressive, kind of roughshod on other people's feelings. I said what I had to say, and I didn't look to see how people were responding. He said, I am infinitely more sensitive to the hurt I can cause by my words, and I watch myself very carefully. So he said, I don't know whose heart I have, but I believe it was an extremely sensitive person.
Amazing.